Hey up, folks. I've got to be honest and say that I'm finding a lot of what we may call the prepper community more than a little irritating. I get the impression that these are men, it's usually men, who are not preparing for life's little problems. They come over instead as the equivalent of train spotters and stamp collectors. They're slightly obsessive, think everybody else should share their obsession, and frankly, I try to avoid them. I don't believe that the end of the world is coming or even the end of civilization. I do believe that as Britain becomes more and more incompetently run, we will get shortages in supply and we will start getting power blackouts. Now, the advantage about being 68 years old is that I remember, in fact, I worked during the power shortages, the power outages in the 1970s. I remember the 3 day week very well, loved every minute of it. Work 3 days, get paid for five. That's the life. I've also lived in Mexico for many years, a country that is, badly run, and a country that has a monsoon season of 4 months every year. Every time it rains, you lose the power, or we did. When does the power come back? Well, not while it's raining. So it's probably going to return the next morning or afternoon. I'm used to this nonsense. And I think it's a case of let's go back to the past for us British people and work on the principle that if it was good in the 1970s, it's probably going to work today. Let's start. Now, light. Light is very important. Back in the 70s, everybody kept a box of candles, usually under the stairs where the electricity meter is to be found. And when the power went out, they would just dig out a candle, stick it in a saucer, and have light in the house. Not much light, but they had light. Some of us, thanks to my mother, had these things, storm lanterns. They work on paraffin, and this is made in Germany, actually, so it's not likely to leak. And we had several of those in our house in Manchester in the 1970s. So we didn't rely on candles all that much. They were our backup. We relied on uh, paraffin lamps. Today, because we're in the 21st century, we can avoid both of them if we want. Look at this. It's about 8 inches tall, gives off a hell of a lot of light from its built in battery. You charge it from your mobile phone charger. I got this one cheap because the power input is a micro USB. Today they're USB C, so I got this one for about 15 quid. But you'll probably pay about 20, 25 quid for one that's got a micro USB C connection. It will light up your living room. So immediately you've got light if the power goes out. And the beautiful thing about using this battery lamp is all I have to do is press a button. I don't need to get my cigarette lighter out. Okay, so I've got light. Now, suppose I want a cup of tea, you know. I remember in the 1970s, we drank tea till it was going out of fashion. And the interesting thing is that our oven, our cooker, was electric. So, how did we manage to make tea? It's very simple. We had a couple of paraffin heaters. They were cylindrical items that stood on their ends, so they would stand about 3 feet from the ground. And you'd be amazed at the heat they gave off. My mother had an old Victorian copper kettle, which I've still got actually, and this was stuck on top of the paraffin heater. And eventually the water boiled and tea was made. She also used it for cooking simple meals. I remember one of something she would run off was instant mashed potatoes with sausages. Uh, Instant mash you make with boiling water, sausages you fry on top of the paraffin heater. It worked. Now, we don't need to use paraffin heaters today. You can invest in something like this. These are wildly popular, so popular that even Halfords, the car spare shop, sells them because the long distance lorry drivers use them so they can stop, set up on the side of the road, and cook themselves a quick meal, save going in the motorway service areas, save a lot of money. They're powered by a CP250 cartridge, which is going to cost you between £2 and £3. So, yeah, they're not cheap. These will last at full power maybe 2 hours. So, they're not cheap, but nevertheless, they work and you can cook with them. And that is what you want. So, you can make something. What can you make? What did we make 50 years ago? Well, 50 years ago, you may find it hard to believe, but we did have canned food in those days. Spam, of course, was pretty ubiquitous. Um, it had been brought over by the American forces. Uh, People took to it. They took to it all over Europe. Nikita Khrushchev, when he paid his visit to the United States in the 1950s, uh, praised Spam, saying that American supplies had kept the Red Army fighting during the war. It's still available. You can buy it, you can eat it cold, you can fry it up, do whatever you want. Same applies to corned beef, which we used to get in a tin. You make corned beef hash on your paraffin stove or your paraffin heater. You can make corned beef hash on that little gas stove that I just showed you. What else? Baked beans. Everybody eats baked beans in Britain. Come on. You can't live without baked beans. Yes, you can eat them cold, but they're a man killer. Heat them up on your stove, and you've got a meal or something to fill your belly. Needless to say, when you're not making baked beans, you're not making spam sandwiches, you're going to be making cups of tea. So make sure that you've got a hob kettle, camping kettle, I call them, so that you can boil your water for your brews. Again, coming forward to the 21st century, the nice thing about this century is the amount of ready meals you can buy. Even Fray Bentos, for heaven's sake, the company famous for turning out meat pies in tins, uh, are now producing meals in sachets or packets. They do a chili con carne, and they do a chicken, the chicken curry, chicken tikka. Uh, and all you do is you just open it, add your boiling water, wait a couple of minutes, stir it round, and then eat it. Now, we got through in the 1970s. It's much easier to get through today. What you have to do is to do as people did in those days and keep the pantry well stocked. I hate shopping. I absolutely detest it. So I don't have, say, one or two cartons of UHT milk. I've got a couple of dozen. This is not because I'm preparing for the end of the world. It's just that I don't want to go shopping for milk. So if I go once every 2 or 3 months, I'm fine. The same is true of other things. If you're a baked bean fan, get yourself a tin of baked beans for that night and an extra tin to put in your pantry. Uh, Here in Scotland, people love mincemeat. They eat it a lot. You can buy it in tins, mincemeat and onion. So get yourself 2 cans of that. One for tonight, one to go in the pantry. You'll be amazed at how quickly you will build up a supply of stable goods that do not need any refrigeration. One of my favourites, of course, is a new thing, which is microwavable rice. And the beautiful thing about that is, well, it's cheap, costs about 50p a pouch. And the other good thing is that you don't have to microwave it. Just slap it into a saucepan with a couple of tablespoons of water, and you can heat it up on your gas stove. Add some mincemeat to it, bit of chili, you've got yourself a sort of curry. So, now then, you've got your light and you're able to eat and make tea. But one other thing you need is communications. Now, back in the 1970s, just about everybody had a medium wave, long wave transistor radio. That's not the case these days, and more importantly, hardly anybody broadcasts on the medium wave because the government's trying to force us all to switch onto the DAB frequencies. That's fine, except DAB radios drink electricity. So, whereas you would need a couple of AA batteries in an AM FM radio, you're going to need 4 at least in a DAB radio set, and they won't last half as long. I have a radio. It cost me a tenner from Tesco. I bought it because it was marketed as a world receiver, but nobody broadcasts on the shortwave anymore. They don't broadcast on the AM medium wave anymore. Radio 4 you can get on the long wave, but I don't know for how much longer. We have the FM band. Now, I know that the BBC has announced that come what may, Radio 2 and Radio 4 will continue to broadcast because they will switch off the other frequencies and use um, the transmission facilities, the diesel for the generators for Radio 2 and Radio 4. So you should be able to get announcements, give you some idea what's going on, and of course the independent radio stations will continue to broadcast until they run out of juice for their generators. That's much better than it was in the 1970s. uh, because it may be that you will be able to use not just radio, but you might be able to use your mobile telephone. I doubt if you'll be able to make calls, the system's going to be saturated. But if you can connect to the net, then you should be able to receive the news apps. So that gives you will give you an idea of what's going on, and of course you can send texts back to your mum and your uncle Sid, and keep in touch that way. Now, people say that the mobile phones will go down immediately. I doubt if they will. The 5G signals could, but the 4G masts tend to have battery backup, and many of them have diesel generators inside. Uh, that relies on somebody coming round every day or so and filling up the diesel generators to keep them running, which I accept is a problem. But I really don't think the power's going to be out for more than a day or so. For heaven's sake, South Africa, once a first world country to rival any, has now joined the ranks of the third world. But even there, they managed to keep some electricity running. They may have blackouts every day almost, lasting 8 or 12 hours. But eventually the juice comes back on. And if that's the case in this country, once the juice is back on, it will charge the battery backups in the transmission masts, and life will continue as normal with your mobile phone. In the interim, less so, but I do believe that we will have mobile communications. So that's. So, where are we? Well, I've not mentioned heating. I suspect we're going to be very, very cold. Back in my day, we had coal fires or gas fires. Today, many houses just have central heating. Mine is gas, but the thing is powered by electricity. So if there's no lecky, I'm not going to get the central heating. I am going to invest in a small uh, heater that uses the CP250 cartridges so that at least I can keep a bit of warmth in my aging carcass. But by and large, I think it's just a case of get well wrapped up and wrap yourself in a blanket as well. What can I say? You make sure that you've got lights in the house, at the very least, candles. Make sure that you have a reasonably well stocked pantry, and make sure that your communications are in order. So, do you have a power pack to charge your mobile telephone? The medium sized ones are 10,000 milliamp hours. You can get them for about a tenner. I think you should have at least one in the house. And finally, one thing. I saved this till last because it's probably the most important. Stop trying to use the plastic, because nobody is going to take plastic when the power goes out, especially if they can't communicate with the banks to check that you've got money in the account. Cash. Cash is king. Keep small denominations, £5, £10, in your wad or in our wad. Get yourself a little plastic bag and have some 2, 1, and 50p coins in it. The supermarkets will stay open. They may have problems with supplies, but they're going to stay open. And if the supermarkets don't, then I guarantee that the little Pakistani and Indian run shops will. And many of them have a big storeroom at the back. So long as you have cash, they will be quite happy to sell you milk and other supplies that you may need if the crisis goes on for more than a day or so. So think about that, folks. It's not going to be the end of the world. We're going to get by. We're British. We got by in the 1970s. My parents got by, well, my mother got by during the Second World War when bombing raids were on. My dad was in the army. During the First World War, they got by, and there were Zeppelin raids in those days. We will get by. We will get by with this. There will be blackouts. Government is not as competent as it once was. We will get by. We will survive. All we need to do is just use a bit of common sense and keep things as organised at home as they were 50 years ago. You think on, folks.